What is up? Good morning and welcome to a special edition of Mock It Like It's Hot, Club Fantasy's weekly mock draft show. I am your host, Ryan Weisse, and yes, it is Tuesday. Yes, it is July 4th. Happy July 4th, all. And we are back in because it occurred to me that I forgot to do any Scott Fishbowl mocks for our wonderful group of mock drafters. And one of our viewers actually asked me if we were going to do one. And I said, yes, let's do one. And it wasn't going to be next Monday because the drafts start next Monday. So instead, here we are. And as you can tell, I have way more people with me this time because a good portion of the Club Fantasy crew wanted to jump on and spend this 4th of July morning with you guys. I'm going to start with the bottom corner because he is my normal co-host. Austin, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing great. Back-to-back days, ready. I got warmed up yesterday, and so now it's time to take some heat chucks.
There you go. I was going to say back-to-back days dealing with me and my bushy beard. I know Faith was super excited that I made it extra bushy for July 4th. It's what I do here. But let's introduce the rest of the panel. I have, of course, Fantasy Faith. How are you doing this morning?
I am well. How are you? Happy Independence Day. It is very Founding Fathers. It's giving Founding Fathers.
That's
vibes.
What I'm going for. It's just that real old timey. I'm in charge.
It's giving. I'm pissed off, and I'm gonna go chuck some tea in the harbor.
I mean, that's fair. I'm not a really big tea drinker, so I guess that kind of makes sense. Next to Faith, I assume this is in the right order, is Michael Sicoli. Michael, how are you this morning?
I am great, Ryan, and I might not be wearing any red, white, and blue, but as far as I know, this is America's defensive end and TJ Watt.
I say you're kind of red, white, and blue, just not
in the exact order. It's called the NFL logo, and I think for all of us, that's more or less our red, white, and blue. So happy July 4th.
That's my flag. Joel Worth below me on the pod here. How you doing, Joel?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to doing the mock. Haven't done many mocks yet, so good to get one in.
Yeah, and last but not least, we have all remarked that we have never done a show with Matt Record. Matt, how are you, buddy?
Ooh, I'm doing great. I'm hard to get a hold of, apparently. I'm rocking my Scott Fishbowl apparel. PBR, red, white,
as am I.
Scott Fish. Represent the Snuggly Duckman division. Yeah, I'm ready to go. Let's do it.
All right, so I'm going to get the draft up on the screen. And Faith, I'm going to put you on the spot. Faith,
okay.
Tell the people about Scott Fishbowl. What is Scott Fishbowl talking
about? Fishbowl. Where do I begin? Yeah, sorry. Scott Fishbowl is an annual fantasy football league tournament,
charity,
giant, whatever that benefits charity. Cooper's mad I left him outside.
Faith has a barking gallery. I'm gonna get the draft started while you talk, Faith.
Okay, it benefits different charities, but for the most part, it's a Toys for Tots thing. Started by a man named Scott Fish, ironically. And I think I saw a tweet earlier that said there was like 3,300 people in it this year.
Yes.
Which is a lot of people, if you don't know that.
Quite a bit.
And so there are, I don't even know how many divisions.
3,300 divided by 12. I don't feel like doing math this morning. So
a lot.
But yeah, it's a big charity tournament made up of fans and analysts. You can donate at fantasycares.org. You can do that whether you're in the tournament or not. And you can certainly not be bitching if you didn't make it into the tournament because that's not cool. Just keep donating. Make sure you've actually signed up for the tournament, which is something that happens a lot. But for the purposes of this mock draft, I just want to let everybody know it is a super flex league and it is very much tight end premium. You get points for first downs in this league and tight ends get an extra point for their reception, and they get an extra point for their first downs. So it is very, very much tight end premium. I gave everybody a minute on the clock here. I set up all 22 rounds. I'm going to let my co-host all know right now, if you need to leave. I'll probably stick around for this entire draft. If it's just me at the end making fun of you guys, that's fine, but it's probably going to run longer than an hour. And I was just recently told by my boss, Josh Hudson, that we might actually be doing more of these drafts as the day goes on. So we'll see how that goes. So I'm going to start by just kind of going around the room, and we lost Faith for a second. So I'll start on the other end. Joel, where are you drafting this year? Did you get your draft slot in this draft? And how many years have you been in Scott Fishbowl?
I did get my draft slot. I'm picking from the 109. I am in the Central Perk division with our esteemed leader, Josh Hudson. And this is my second year in the main event. I did one satellite before that. And I'm on the clock, so I'm going to make my pick here. But yeah, Year 2 for me.
Central perk is that slow draft or live draft?
It is slow.
So I figured if you were with Josh, I'm just shocked Josh isn't doing a live draft, but he must just be very busy at this point. So
yeah, we had a live draft in Canton last year, which was a great time. Didn't do one this year. I think Bob Lung, who put it together, is helping do the London live draft.
Yeah, he's drafting in London. So. Matt, same question. So where are you drafting? Did you get your draft slot live, all that kind of fun stuff? And what year of Scott Fish is this for you?
Yeah, so I am 106. This is my draft spot, my first mock draft. So I'm learning with y'all. Yeah, I'm in the Snuggly Duckling division, slow draft, and also my second year in the fishbowl.
Okay. Austin?
Yeah, I am in the food line division. Shout out to my local grocery store. I did get my draft spot, drafting from the 4. Was hoping to be somewhat towards the middle to avoid the just long wait between 1 and 12 and whatnot with all the third round reversals. And we're doing a slow draft on Sleeper.
There you go. And Michael?
DQ division here, second year doing it. Hopefully better than last year. But slow draft. Normally drafting from the 9. Today I'm drafting from the 8 because Joel's got the 9. But nice to be close to the spot at least.
All right. And Faith, my only other fellow live drafter, talk about your draft.
I am drafting live in LA from Trophy Smack headquarters. I'm super excited. Not only have I never been to California, but I have.
You're making a whole thing of it as well.
I'm making a whole thing of it. Kelly and I are going to an Angels game on Friday. Our good friend Kelly Singh. We're going to Disneyland on Sunday. It's going to be a thing. I am in the Randy's Donuts division. And full disclosure, I was actually in a different division in LA because I liked the logo better. But then I saw who was in Randy's Donuts, and I was like, nope, I got to switch.
I'm not going to make you call anybody out by name, though I know you would. But did you switch because you didn't want to draft against Sharks, or you didn't want to be in the same room as these people?
I switched because I wanted to be in a league with these people.
Okay, now I understand. All right, let's get some of these user comments in because we've had some interesting ones. First of all, shout out to Zach and Gator J, 275 Scott Fish Bowl leagues this year. So shout out to Scott Fish. Shout out to his team. If you guys are not familiar, make sure you're following Scott, one of the best people on Twitter. And like I said, contribute to Fantasy Cares. It's a great organization. Most of it goes, not all of it, goes to Toys for Tots. It's all good. Our buddy Al, who I believe is picking from the second slot, said this is his first time with Travis Kelce early. He is the top-ranked Scott Fish Bowl player on Player Profiler. So I think most of us will agree with Kelce, and we're going to talk about that as the draft moves on. And then a lot of people have pointed out that while Josh could not resist the Central Perk division, he is going to be joining everyone at the Orlando draft.
He's going to London.
Yeah, going to London too. I'm sending Josh all over the planet. And then finally, I have to pay attention to what happens at the 7 slot because Mike is in Sbarro with me. So I need to make sure I'm seeing what's going there so I can do all of the sniping that is necessary. So looking at the draft, I'm going to just start with round 1. And a lot of times with Mock It Like It's Hot, we talk about strategy and using mock drafts. This show's about Scott Fish Bowl. So we're going to talk about the players. And so I'm just going to start with round 1. Sokoli, what is that? 8 quarterbacks, Travis Kelce, and 3 wide receivers. How do we feel about how round 1 shook out? Is what you expected?
This is what I would expect of any Superflex league with the tight end premiums that we have, right? And we have Travis Kelce going as high as he is because I forget who put up the study. I apologize, but it was on Twitter yesterday. I believe Travis Kelce had 184 more SFB points than the tight end 2 last year. And granted, it was a down year for the tight end 2. But, man, that positional advantage, it makes sense why Travis Kelce goes as high as he is. And Superflex, we won our quarterbacks. That's why I took 2 of them already. Although I won't lie, was on tilt. Wanted Mark Andrews to come around to me there, and it put me a little bit spinning as early as round 2.
You know, I'm actually glad you brought that up because my question is, and you kind of just hit on this, it was a down year last year for the tight end 2. There are a lot of misconceptions about tight end premium. Article coming at the end of the week. Do we feel like Mark Andrews bounces back? Do we feel like these Mark Andrews, TJ Hawkinson types need to still be taken early, even though Travis Kelce is the god of this scoring format?
I do. I mean, Mark Andrews, as recently as a year before, had a tight end 1 season, the tight end 1 overall. He's a great player. Just was hurt, had some random drops, just some weird things happened last year. But if we're all expecting Lamar to be passing the ball more, and we're calling it for Zay Flowers and guys like Bateman and guys like Odell, they're adding pieces for the Ravens to pass the ball more. Mark Andrews will get his because he's just an alpha at his position. So I'm willing to pay up for Mark Andrews. Everyone else, to me, is a bit of a step down.
Austin, do you agree with the order these quarterbacks went in round 1?
The quarterbacks, oh boy, I don't know. This one's tough because my heart wanted to reach for Lamar Jackson or Justin Herbert, but Josh Allen being right there at the 4th spot, I had to do it. You know, the thing about the elite quarterbacks, they've really been separating themselves these past years, particularly in these formats like Scott Fishbowl, where you're getting extra points for first downs, for rushing first down, for rushing attempts. Like all of these things compile and compound to make the elite rushing quarterbacks that much more valuable. I'm fine with the order that they went. I think it's kind of like this is get your guy territory if you're going to be getting a quarterback in first round. And so you go with your heart. I just decided I didn't want you all to troll me today for taking someone over Josh Allen. So I just stuck with ADP and went with Josh Allen.
One thing I forgot to mention at the beginning of the draft, Wizard with 3Ds. You are picking from my slot if you're watching. So you are under the gun here. I am looking at your team and expecting very, very great things. And I find it interesting that you're going the 0 quarterback route, which is one of my possible strategies. So I'm going to be interested to see how that plays out. But speaking of these wide receivers at the end, Matt, I think everybody agrees with the order, but the consensus of people who really study Scott Fishbowl scoring right now is that wide receivers the scoring is kind of down this year because of the points per carry. So do we agree with all the wide receivers going early and the running back starting to fall a little bit?
Yeah, I think it makes a whole bunch of sense. I feel like the wide receiver room is pretty top heavy. Now I'm on the spot here drafting. Oh, let's go with Nick Chubb. I like Nick Chubb. I think everything that I'm seeing here is in line with what everyone's saying on the internet, but I forgot who was saying, I think it was Austin, is kind of get your guy territory. At least the way I handle things here. I find it more fun for me personally to be picking people I like watching play football, you know? So, really whatever works.
Joel, I think it has to make you happy to not see running backs go early. I mean, 2nd round is still too early for you, but I think the 1st round brings a smile to your face, right?
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, that's the way. I think this is the way it should shake out for the 1st round. That's kind of the way I would do it. I was really hoping that Kelsey would fall, but I don't think it's realistic for him to fall to the 109. So, yeah, I think that kind of shakes out the way I expected.
This is for anybody in the group. If you had the 101, and none of you are the 101, but if you had the 101, would you take Kelsey at 101 in the scoring?
I would.
Yes.
No.
Not for me. I'm going to go. Mahomes is too much. I just want Mahomes, man. I never get to have Mahomes.
Okay, I was going to say, so yeah.
He's too pricey.
Okay, first and foremost, I'm going to throw Mike's comment up here real quick. He's seen Kelsey fall as far as the 107. I haven't done many drafts. I have not seen that happen a singular time.
And that's actually what I was going to say to Joel's comment. I was talking to the guys earlier in a mock that I did. I was able to get Josh Allen at the 105. In my division, that is unlikely to happen because I'm drafting with some pretty heavy hitters. But for those of you who are in slow drafts who may just be not heavy hitters, you never know what's going to happen in a fishbowl draft. You never know. And so you may have a plan. Please hold. You may have a plan, but then the board just goes haywire and you're like, okay, well, we're just going to pivot.
Well, and I think it's a really good point is mock drafts do not accurately show what's going to happen in Scott Fishbowl ever. If you think you're going to get wide receivers, you're not going to. If you think Travis Kelce's going to fall to the 1-7, it's probably not going to happen. I think the biggest gamble here, Sokoli, is the folks who are at the very end where I'm going to be picking, gambling on quarterback. Because I'm trying to quickly count here, 4 rounds in, not even full 4 rounds. And I think it's 15, maybe even 16 quarterbacks off of the board already. So it is quarterback heavy in this super flex for Scott Fishbowl. Sokoli, is gambling on quarterback worth the gamble?
I mean, I'm looking at this right now, and I'm one of the few teams in here that went back-to-back quarterback immediately. Me and Joel here, but it's because I'm looking at the room now. We're looking at round 4, and you never know who's going to come around to you on those long turns wherever you're picking in your draft. So you're looking right now, round 4. You have Russell Wilson coming off an abysmal year. You have Aaron Rodgers coming off a down year in a new situation. You have Derek Carr in a new situation. You have so many question marks right now with that QB2 if you choose to wait on it. And for me, Dak Prescott was the end of a tier. So that's why I decided to go double up on it early and there we go, Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson off the board. We are scraping for the barrel, and we're not even 5 rounds in.
Yeah. First and foremost, we have so much great things going on in the chat right now. I want to give a shout out to our good friend Kevin. Happy 4th to you, buddy, and we appreciate everything you guys are doing over at the Devi Royale. And way more importantly, we appreciate you calling Joe Zolo out for just being a fucking slacker who never shows up for any shows except for the Wednesday show. So thank you for that, Kevin. And then we have a few folks I want to actually point out. Austin, I'm going to give you a second here to talk about your man crush, Daniel Jones, and our buddy Terry. A little upset that you got him, and Terry's on the end and was really hoping a quarterback fell to him, I'm sure. So, Austin, tell people why they're sleeping on Daniel Jones right now.
My dude ran for 700 yards last year. Come on. We love rushing quarterbacks, don't we? Where are we on Daniel Jones? Also, in a format where you're getting points for carries, he had 120 rushing attempts last year. Yeah. 120. What are we doing? That's Josh Allen level. So you know what? The problem with my team so far, though, is Josh Allen and Daniel Jones have the same bye week. So I'm going to be screwed on week 13. But, we'll figure that out later.
It's just
it's a playoff week, too.
Yeah, it's a playoff week.
Oof.
That's even better. That's why we mock. So,
you
better rack up those points.
Yeah. And it's funny because that kind of alludes to a question I was asking you yesterday, Austin, in the best ball draft is, do we care about stacking quarterbacks with the same bye week if you're just getting the value? And clearly in this best ball mock, you're not too worried about it.
Yeah.
Shout out to our buddy, motherfucking dice dealer. Throw them dice. Has the 101. He says it's down to Mahomes, Allen, and Kelsey. And, Faith and Sokoli said they would not take Kelsey. So I assume you guys would both go quarterback. And Sokoli, you already said you just wanted your piece of Patrick Mahomes. So that's where it would go there, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's a player that's a lock to not finish lower than the QB2. So it's still fantasy football when concerning Superflex, still the most valuable position. I can try to find some tight end value and piece it together with numerous pieces if need be. I just want to go with the total sure thing. And I'm not calling Kelsey's not going to drop off or anything crazy.
Yeah.
But he is a 1 position starter. QB is a 2.
Gotcha. And then Matt, would we give Jalen Hurts any play at the 101? Obviously he went 103 in this draft. And I can't see who that is. Oh, that's our boy Benny. So he went 103 in this draft. And so second quarterback overall ahead of Josh Allen, which Austin remarked he was happy to get Josh Allen at 4. Are we sleeping on Jalen Hurts? Are we expecting a step back, or is it just we like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes more?
I would take Hurts over Allen, but the thing that Mahomes has, kind of what Sokoli was saying, he's done it for so long, like the risk factor there. Like the problem with drafting 101 is your player better be the highest scoring person at that position, or else you didn't get value, right? Like it's a hard spot. So at that point, for me, I like going with the consistency and someone that's not going to tank your season. Like obviously Hurts has been great. Wonderful. I'm still a little worried about injury risk, which I know people don't like talking about because you never, injuries, but the way he plays the game, all it takes for him, he's only done it for a year, right? Is getting hurt or something, and then he's just not worth that pick. Granted, he still should be 103 based on his upside, but no, I'm Mahomes 101 or Kelsey, depending on what flavor you're going with.
Yeah, I like a couple of comments that were brought up. Josh brought up, with the emphasis on points per carry. Jalen Hurts has a great upside there because he's going to carry the ball as much as any quarterback in the league outside of maybe Fields, maybe Lamar Jackson. We don't know which Lamar Jackson we're going to see this season. But then Gator J asks, does the no negative points bump up the rookie quarterbacks? And I actually saw a couple of interesting things here. But Faith, I actually am going to go another direction with this question. And I think it's a great question for you, and I hope I'm not putting you on the spot here. Faith, you would openly admit, other than editing and having fun in the community, you probably follow football less than the average fantasy analyst. How do you feel about rookies? Do you go into drafts as someone who follows everything at a higher level? And I mean like the 10,000 foot level. Do you avoid rookies because you don't know enough about them? Do you prefer the proven commodities?
I generally won't take a rookie as my first of that position. And if we're talking wide receivers, running backs, probably not second either. I'm shameless in my love for a certain college football team.
Yes.
That seemed to have it joined Alabama with the most draft selections this year. So it all depends. But I'm also kind of in love with Michael Mayer from Notre Dame. So I actually have been taking him as my tight end too in some drafts. Just for funsies.
Well, it's a good point because I mean, obviously, you've done rookie drafts with us on the mock show, and you typically will load up on the Georgia guys, which basically means you're loading up on Philadelphia Eagles now because the Eagles have just become the graduate school for the Georgia Bulldogs.
It is.
So, yeah,
it's UGA North, Gator J. Just
the player I wanted to point out for everybody, and Joel, I'm going to start with you here. Anthony Richardson, and most mocks, I am now seeing him go second round, certainly early third. He made it to the turn at 312 in this mock because of the third round reversal. That feels like value if you believe he's the starter, Joel.
Yeah, I think it kind of points to the question you brought up earlier is, the no negative scoring. It's also pretty heavy first down scoring. So you don't want, quarterbacks in general, players in general from bad teams. You want, that's a really big deal. Like good teams create first down. So I don't think you want to wait too long, I don't think you want to be going too heavy on rookie quarterbacks because you need quarterbacks from good teams that are going to create those first downs. That's a big deal. So yeah, I think it still pushes them down basically as much as the negative scoring did.
Interesting. Now, Austin, you don't even believe he might be the starter, which warms my heart as one of, if not the largest Gardner Minshew stands on the face of the planet. I would love to see Gardner play, but for fantasy,
you, Joel.
Yeah. Oh, we got a snipe.
Oh, I took a Georgian.
Yeah. Don't you know that's not allowed in this draft? But Austin, as much as I love Gardner, I think Richardson's better for fantasy. So how do you feel about him at the 312? Do you think that's appropriate because he may not even be the starter? Do you think it's too early?
I think it's way too early just because there's so much that you're gambling on with rookies. If we look at 2021, when we had a stacked rookie quarterback class, the number one rookie quarterback was Mac Jones, and he was the QB 16 overall in this scoring format. He just barely beat, wait for it, Taylor Heineke for that spot. So if you are betting on quarterback, take your lottery ticket, sure, but you're making a gamble. Last year, our best rookie quarterback was none other than Kenny Pickett because there were no other options. But here are quarterbacks that did better than him and Scott Fish scoring last year. Jimmy Garoppolo, Matt Ryan, Andy Dalton, Jacoby Brissett, Davis Mills. Davis freaking Mills was better than Kenny Pickett last year. And he didn't start all 17 games.
We're talking no negative scoring as well, though. And Kenny Pickett was the poster child for no negative scoring last year.
This is in Scott Fish scoring, though.
Oh, and this year's Scott Fish. Oh, my apologies. I thought you meant
scoring.
An actual Scott Fish last year. I'm like, yeah,
no.
It was awful when you're weighing in incompletions and turnovers.
So. No, this year's scoring. And
okay, my apologies.
We could get into other things about Kenny Pickett, but you're betting on picking the right rookie. So I'm avoiding rookie quarterbacks because I don't feel confident that I know which one's actually going to work out. Sure, Anthony Richardson seems likely if he starts, but who knows?
Michael, I don't think I've ever talked to you about Bijan Robinson. Let's keep talking about rookies. Gator, who, if you are not familiar with Gator J, first of all, make sure you're following him. Second of all, make sure you're following Fantasy and Frames because they are doing, I think they're on their 188th Scott Fishbowl mock this morning or something. I was lucky enough to get invited to the 100th, but they're doing so many Scott Fishbowl mocks. And he says this is the first time, 200 drafts, that he has seen Bijan Robinson fall to the end of the second round and as the fourth running back taken. So what is your take, Sokoli, on Bijan Robinson as the fourth running back, second round in this scoring format?
Sure, and allow me to ease those concerns, because if Dak Prescott went, a pick before instead of Deshaun Watson, with all due respect, Joel, Deshaun Watson would have been the end of a tier for me. Dak Prescott was still in that tier that I wanted. I would have went Bijan Robinson right there over Saquon Barkley, over Austin Eckler. I've already placed, a $5 little future bet on Bijan Robinson to lead the NFL in rushing this year, because I think he's going to get so many touches, he might choke on it. Because that's how Atlanta's going to be able to move the ball, and that's how Arthur Smith wants to move the ball.
Are you allowed to mention choke in Atlanta in the same
Whoa,
sentence? I think 28-3 has
Let me
ended
ask
that.
Faith, can I? Because you got the Patriots side, but you got the Georgia side. What can't you say it?
So, I mean, Matt and I both agree that 28-3 is a perfectly fine conversation. Austin might disagree, but Matt and I are here for it.
I'll talk about it anytime.
I disassociated. I don't even know what we're talking about right now.
As do I. But no problem.
I love that takes the call.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt, I'm gonna have you just keep going on Bijan. What's your take on Bijan?
Yeah, I'm not as convinced of him leading the lead as Scully. I'm sorry, you're gonna lose your $5, Michael.
We're starting beef right now, Matt. All right, go for it. Go.
I'm one of those dynasty players that is now scorned by my Tyler Algier stock being useless. Is mostly what that is. I'm very biased. Granted, he was very good in that offense, right? And they're still figuring things out. They have time to let Bijan sort of figure things out. Granted, once in a lifetime talent in theory, right? All the opportunities are going to be there. I think there's going to be enough vulturing though from Algier. Oh, I'm on the clock. Sure. Let's go with the rookie stack. With why not? I think there's going to be enough vulturing that it might be a little frustrating to sort of own him. I'm thinking sort of like the Lions backfield where all of a sudden, what's his nuts? Williams came in and just vultured all the touchdowns last year.
Oh yes, Jamal Williams.
Jamal Williams. That's right.
Let's be clear. Those were his touchdowns. Fuck DeAndre Swift. No, there was no vulture.
I'm saying there's enough there that everyone like, oh, this year he's going to be like worth the 4th overall running back pick. It's like I don't know. I'm glad getting like the Chubb. I'm glad he went to 5th.
Not Scott Fishbowl related at all, but I was going to put you all on the spot since Sicoli's already come out and said Bijan Robinson's going to lead the league in rushing. Zach says it's going to be Nick Chubb. Let's hear it. Faith, who's going to lead the league in rushing next year? I know you love being put on spot for a question like this.
Oh, question like this. 100%.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Which Georgia Bulldog is going to?
I was going to say
DeAndre Swift. I love it.
Everybody is going to rake me over the coals for this.
Austin, who do you think?
Jonathan Taylor.
Okay, Matt.
I was going to say him too because I picked him, but
there you go.
I'm gonna go with Derrick Henry again. I don't like how old he is, but I look at that team, like they're gonna have to utilize him again all the time. So
I think that's probably a pretty fair assumption because who else do they have? And Joel?
I'll let my Badgers homerism take over and say Jonathan Taylor, who is the best running back in the league.
Go Badgers.
I'm just
For the record, real quick, I like Bijan Robinson at odds. That's why I tossed that bet in there. All right, it's long odds. It's like 5 to win like 100. Let's talk here. All right, but I'll stand behind it wholeheartedly.
Well, I was gonna back your play, Sicoli. Let me go look at my projections real quick.
Oh, go for it, please.
Oh, you're under. I can already tell you, Ryan, you're under projecting how much the Falcons are going to pass because everybody's like, "Oh, they just run the ball now," and I'm like, "Yo, with Desmond Ridder, they were passing the ball 6 times more per game."
Okay. Well, I will say I have Jonathan Taylor at 1452 as the leader, Bijan in second at 1415 in my projections for what.
Also, Austin, when they were passing 6 times more a game, I think Tyler Algier was actually more relevant on the ground.
Wow, it's incredible.
What a passing game does for a running game, I know. But hey, that's going to help Bijan Robinson too, just as much.
You guys feeding back to each other.
Can I step on your toes as host for a second?
100%.
I have a question that I'm going to ask of you guys because as I was sifting through available players, there's a player sitting near the top that people have questions about because it's just uncertain. What happens to DeAndre Hopkins this year?
I'll go first because I'm not the host at this point. I think DeAndre Hopkins, when you look at the games he played last year, was still an elite fantasy wide receiver. 9 targets per game. I think it was almost 18 fantasy points per game, which would have put him top 5 for the entire season. However, he only played 9 games. Landing spot to a degree matters. The one place I don't want to see him end up is Cleveland. I don't think there's going to be enough volume for everybody if he ends up in Cleveland to where he's going to be a better football player in Cleveland than he is a fantasy asset. But just about any other landing spot that they're projecting DeAndre Hopkins to, I think he is being passed on to everyone's peril.
Sicoli?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say that he's not a value given how late he's going and how we're all simultaneously projecting him to immediately establish himself as an alpha, the wide receiver 1, wherever he ends up, and he will get signed. There's no doubt about that. So, yeah, I mean, these things happen every single year where somebody has a interesting situation. You know, Dalvin Cook just went off the board. He's another one of those guys that we just have to evaluate the risk and reward. And when we're drafting as early as we do in Scott Fishbowl, we have to take that into account. So I'd lean more value than overvalued.
Austin, because you actually did just take Dalvin Cook, who sits in that same situation. What do you think?
I worry a little bit more about DeAndre Hopkins than I worry about Dalvin Cook, just partially because of the age and the recent injury history. Like, Hopkins has been on and off the field a lot, so I'm fine letting him slide. And, you know, I think he's probably going to be the alpha in whatever offense he goes to, but it could also fluctuate. Like, if he goes to the Patriots, he's the clear number 1 outside of, I guess, Devontae Parker. Hey, big money. But if he goes to Buffalo, is he really going to outperform Stephon Diggs? Probably not. So I feel a little bit less confident about how his situation shakes out compared to someone like Dalvin Cook, who we know he's going to be the number 1 running back in basically every team that would sign him.
Matt?
Yeah, for me, it's I don't like taking huge risks. Granted, at this drafting spot, it's not a huge risk, but I think his landing spot obviously greatly changes his impact. Like, even if he's the number 1 wide receiver on the Patriots, right? It's like, we know that the wide receiver room there doesn't necessarily produce those elite wide receiver 1 numbers, right? Like, being a Patriots fan, we're very good at having like wide receiver 2 and 3s from a fantasy perspective, but you're not going to get that big number 1. So I'm hopefully, for real life NFL reasons, hope he goes to the Pats. But if he were to sign there and I would have a stock in him, I would probably be a little miffed.
All right, Joel.
When Michael and I first talked about this on the Dynasty After Party, Sundays at 8, shameless plug.
No shameless.
No shame here.
This is Club Fantasy, bitch. First of all, another plug, hit subscribe. There's so many people in the chat right now who we've never seen. We go live so much. Dynasty shows. We're going to be doing a best ball show. We have women in fantasy football shows. We have a fucking golf show. You need to hit subscribe. You want to be a part of Club Fantasy. Do it now. Help us get to 1,000 subscribers so we can get paid for this stuff. Keep going.
I said Carolina because I think that's the best spot for him, right? He's from there. He's from that area. They've got a rookie quarterback with no proven target earner. They've got salary cap space. It's a team that literally could contend in that division just because it's so bad. So I think that's the best spot for him.
Yeah, I like that. And then Mike throws in the chat, he's calling the Titans, and I think he really just wants to ruin everybody's like fantasy, like, because everybody wants Chig and Burks to be these like great things. If you go to the Titans, what does that signify? Because that is a bad football team with a bad quarterback. And it's like, I'm DeAndre Hopkins. Pay me? Like, that's not what I want to think about DeAndre Hopkins. Go somewhere where you can win something, bro. Like, that's just me, maybe. I'm going to go all the way back to a comment that Al made forever ago, and I want to start looking at some of these builds. So I'm going to throw Al's comment up, but I'm going to take it down so I can actually show you guys his team. So as much as he likes Kelsey, Al, remember, was picking from the 102 and took Kelsey for the first time in this draft. He is not loving waiting till pick 23, and we all kind of talked about this for his first quarterback, and then pick 35 for his first wide receiver. So I'm going to scroll up a little bit here, and I'll get the rest of the draft back on the screen. But I'll pick from the 102. I'm going to quickly run down his team. Kelsey Cousins, Olave Goff, Etienne Ayuk Dotson, Connor Pacheco, and then Brock Purdy at the 10th pick. Guys, how do we feel for these teams, especially this early in a draft, especially in a third round reversal draft. How do we feel about this team? Faith, I'm going to go to you first on this one. Like when you look at this team after, the halfway point of the draft, are you going to be happy if this was your team? And I know you were someone who was avoiding Travis Kelce, even if you had the early pick.
No, I would not be happy with that. Actually, when he made that Purdy pick, yes, thank you, Austin. Austin and I have a special relationship with Trey Lance. So no. Anyway, Brock Purdy, I kind of cringed a little. I know I did one of those type of things. I struggle.
I do want to throw out, Al, if you've never watched the show, we can be a little critical. Usually I'm the mean one. Faith is saying she's cringing at your team. This is all about learning. That's what mock drafts are all about. So
which is funny
don't
because
get
if
offended.
I'm cringing at your team, the non-analyst.
Yeah. But just do better next
It's all
time.
about personal preferences. Exactly, Al. Be better.
Sicoli, how do you feel about that team?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's going through one ear and out the other because I was so set on just sniping Joel.
Oh, you're absolutely fine.
Gibson.
Team picking from the second slot who took Kelce overall. He even brought up that while he wants to have Kelce on his team, he doesn't like where he's getting his quarterback and his first wide receiver.
Yes, right.
Yep.
Sorry, I
good,
want to take Antonio Gibson right before Joel, and I was going to feel really good about it. But either way, that's my basis of what I said before about Mahomes and why I want him, because I said to myself about there being a teardrop for me at Dak Prescott at the 2-5. Then you're going to add another 8 picks, and all of a sudden my QB1, and I'd have to double up if I want to. And all of a sudden I'm spending 3 of my first 3 picks on non-running wide receivers. All of the positions I have to fill my roster with. So it's tough. Even in Scott Fishbowl, would go tight end early and still go quarterback early. I never like building my teams that way, with some rare exceptions. Like if I got Mark Andrews over Dak Prescott, I would have waited on my second quarterback a little bit longer.
And then Al points out that he cringes at every mock he does.
Don't we all?
So
Don't we all, Al?
He's good with us giving him a hard time. I don't know how that got up there. But anyway, Austin, so we've heard from the two people who didn't want Travis Kelce early. I know you're a big Travis Kelce guy. How do you feel about this team? Is the juice worth the squeeze of taking Kelce at that first pick?
Yeah, I mean, you just take Daniel Jones instead with Kirk Cousins. Problem solved. Get the rushing upside. Look, I'm in on Daniel Jones. I'm going to write an article about him. If I'm taking Kelce, I'm almost always taking Daniel Jones. Like, it's just a weird thing that I've got going on here. So, I'm fine with it. And also, like, the positional advantage that you're going to get with Travis Kelce is so significant. To me, it's worth it. Like, he's going to be the red zone target. He's going to be the primary target when they need a first down. So I'm like, yeah, sure. Why not? Get Travis Kelce, sort it out later. Freaking Geno Smith was not supposed to be the starting quarterback when we were doing Scott Fishbowl drafts last year. We were like, oh, Drew Lock. And somehow he ended up being like the QB, 5 last year? Like he was a QB 5 in this year's scoring system. He was a QB 5 last year. So you can still do this wait on quarterback strategy. I believe in it. Last year, an anomaly. That was the outlier. We're getting back to normal quarterback world this year.
Keep it going, Matt. Team 2 is what we're talking about, just as a reminder.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing. I'm reminded by what my fiance always tells me after every single one of my drafts. I always come out saying, I hate my team, right?
Yeah.
It's always like, I never like what happened. And of course, you always talk to me when I'm drafting.
Normally, I'm really good at avoiding this when there's 3 of us on stream, but at this rate, I'm just trying to make sure you all get your airtime to show the world how smart you are. So I don't care if you're drafting. It's about the live stream.
Great. So yeah, I mean, I feel like with the scoring, you have to feel good with Kelce, right? And then you kind of just have to sort of obviously go from there. Looking at team 2, do I love Kirk Cousins as my QB1? Probably not, but he's serviceable, right? Like I'm looking at this team, like, yeah, it's not the team I would draft, but I think it's gonna be just fine.
And Joel, I know you're a big Kelce guy as well.
Yeah, I think you hit on it, Ryan, when you brought this up, is that the third round reversal really kind of puts you in a box. It kind of takes you out of that, being able to take 2 elite quarterbacks, and you probably aren't even going to get one. But that's the trade-off you're making, right? You're either going to get an elite quarterback or you're going to get the best player in the format. So, take your pick.
Yeah.
I think to pause
that's
for a second because Mr. Scampers just entered the chat, and I discovered recently that I am live drafting in LA with Mr. Scampers.
That's awesome.
I'm so excited for that.
I love it. You need to live stream so the whole Club Fantasy people can see who he is, because he's been basically a member of the show.
I was gonna say, you mean it's not a cat?
Yeah, I was gonna say he's been a member of the show for about as long as I can recall.
If I'm live drafting with a cat, I will lose my mind.
Well, I'm at the wrong draft if there are cats in any of these drafts. Before we jump into, we have at least one user question that I want to talk about a little bit here. However, I want to jump to the other side of the second pick, which is my draft slot, the 11. And very interesting draft strategy here. So we're going Wizard. Jamar Chase, Christian McCaffrey, CeeDee Lamb, then finally double taps quarterback Aaron Rodgers, Kyler Murray, and he did it on the turnaround there. Joe Mixon, Jerry Jeudy, DeAndre Hopkins, who we talked about, Mike Williams, Samaje Perine, Rashad Bateman. The only team in this Scott Fishbowl tight end premium mock who has not drafted a tight end. How do we feel about that, Matt?
Honestly, I love it. I don't necessarily love the Kyler Murray pick necessarily because he's not gonna, be playing, which I see like give you Derek Carr in that spot instead, someone that's going to be playing. It's really good. There's a lot of these tight ends that I are still on the board. I'm not going to say actual names, but I kind of like that sleeper value there. And the start of what you have there is something really special. So it's bold, but you got to be bold to win this thing, right?
You gotta be sorry.
Joel, I'm going to come back to you because you are a notorious zero RB drafter. And what we talk about sometimes is there are people who will dip their toe into zero RB and then get really scared to draft like 7 running backs in a row. My question, looking specifically at Wizards team, did they do that a little bit with quarterback? Should they have played the game and waited longer with the starters that were available and maybe continued to load up on positional value? How do we feel about Rodgers and Murray? But more importantly, what if they had taken Jordan Love instead of Joe Mixon with their next pick? 3 quarterbacks in a row, but then you have 2 players that are actually on the field plus Kyler Murray. Is that too much of an overcorrection, or would that have worked out better for them?
It's kind of tough for me to be impartial with Jordan Love, but
that's why I went to you on this one.
I would have taken him probably significantly earlier if I didn't have a quarterback. I don't think Kyler Murray's going to miss as much as the season as most do. I think he'll probably miss like a month, and then I think he'll be usable, but at some point you got to fill in those gaps, right? So, and there's still some risk that he just doesn't play at all. So yeah, it's not the way I would have gone about it, but to each his own, I guess.
There you go. So Coley, how do we feel? No tight ends going into the 12th pick right now.
Yeah, despite what my team looks like, I'm normally a zero RB guy as well. So that wide receiver approach would normally be right up my alley, and I love the 3 start, but I don't know. I don't feel comfortable enough in the weapons around it to make up for a hit at quarterback and a hit at tight end in the scoring formats that we have here that greatly support quarterback and tight end. I have a lot of question marks about Joe Mixon, about Jerry Jeudy. Joe Mixon could be facing a suspension himself. DeAndre Hopkins doesn't have a team. Mike Williams is perennially, I love him, but good God, he is frustrating.
He makes acrobatic catches that hurt himself. It's great for TV.
He's too good for his own. He's too good for his own good, is what I always say every year. But yeah, so for me, I want to be heavy at tight end, or I want to be heavy at quarterback, just with the way Scott Fishbowl is this year. But I 100% support going against the grain, because the people that do typically end up profiting the most.
Don't auto pick here, Wizard. Okay, thank God. I was like, I am so interested to see how this experiment goes at 111. I can't have this turn into an auto pick thing. Faith, do you think that me talking about tight ends caused this run on rookie tight ends and Tyler Higbee just so all of you guys? Oh wait, did he go to auto pick? I couldn't even see it. Damn it!
I think he did.
Yeah, he did.
He did.
And he's even in the room. Fix your auto pick quick before it gets back to you. But anyway, Do you think I caused this run on tight ends just so the rest of the draft is screwing over Wizard and by comparison me at the 11 spot? Is that what happened here?
Well, you know what they say, don't talk about players who haven't been taken off the board yet.
Will we spit in the face of on Mock It Like It's Hot?
So potentially, but also I made the comment earlier about how I've generally been taking Michael Mayer as my tight end 3, and he was there, and so I snagged him. I can't speak for Mike, who took Sam Laporta, and then anybody else.
Yeah, I was gonna say it just there was a little mini run on tight ends, and I figured as me and you as the evil ones of this group,
Yes, Ryan.
Is it our negative energy that caused this?
You hexed it.
Now, Austin, Austin, looking at these rookie tight ends, I feel like they probably went in an order that makes you smile because you are very much puzzled by the love that Dalton Kincaid is getting. So I'm going to start with a 2-part question with you here, Austin. And that is, of all of the tight ends you can kind of see on the draft screen right now, so from round 5 on, would you have taken any of these tight ends over anybody else on Wizards' team? And then talk about the rookies. Start off by talking about the rookies. So.
Yeah, I mean, the rookies, come on. It's like, why don't I draft the tight end 1 on my team instead of the tight end 2 on that team? That's why you go for Michael Mayer and Sam Laporta. They're going to be the starting tight ends, more likely than not. Dalton Kincaid, he's competing with Dawson Knox. It's just that's as simple as it is. Check out the depth chart. You're good to go. Bada bing, bada boom. As far as for Wizards team, I love that he hasn't drafted or that they haven't drafted a tight end yet, because I'm just like, there's so many great tight end options. And I think what we're really seeing is, Ryan, what you and I have discussed is people just thinking about tight end premium like it's going to solve the tight end spot. And right now we're in a tight end dud zone. There's no functional difference between Sam Laporta and Dalton Kincaid and Tyler Higbee and Cole Kmet and Dalton Schultz. You're hoping for a touchdown almost any week. You're hoping for some first downs. And so why not wait till later, get a Hayden Hurst, a Trey McBride, a Dawson Knox? Like, they're going to be the same player functionally. And in the meantime, you get high upside guys like Jerick McKinnon, who was the RB1 towards the end of the season last year.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point, Austin. I just talked you into an auto pick, so you'll have to fix that real quick. But hey, great pick.
Juju.
Juju Smith-Schuster.
I mean,
yeah, that's
Austin loves his New England Patriots.
Yeah, here's the thing. I was in on Juju last year, and then now he's been New England. Might not bump that. I'm done.
I mean, but there's an article that you could read that talks about Juju Smith-Schuster in New England.
I thought that article was about tight ends.
No, that was my.
Oh, that's right. You wrote like 3 articles.
I wrote 3 articles this year, Austin. I understand that it's hard to keep track of them because I wrote 3.
Faith is on top of it. So I'm going to put you guys on the spot here. I'm going to ask one more question, but get ready. I'm about to ask you guys if there are any picks that stand out to you. So feel free to look around the board, take a couple look at things, but something big just happened. The very first kicker went off in the 13th round, 13-12. Deshwain takes the first kicker. So for folks who have not paid attention to the changes in Scott Fishbowl scoring, I think it is 3.3 points for every extra point, and field goals are yardage based with no negative points. If you look at last year's scoring, Brett Maher out of Dallas, some way, somehow, was the #1 kicker in Scott Fishbowl scoring. But way more importantly, he was actually in line with Christian Kirk or Chris Godwin. I don't remember which one it was. He was right next to those two guys as the wide receiver 15. So I remember you guys all talked about this at the beginning. I'm going to start with Matt. What format are you drafting in, sleeper or MFL?
I'm in sleeper.
Sleeper. So as you are aware, but for everybody else, sleeper must start 1 kicker. MFL can start up to, I think it's 4 kickers when you throw in the flex spots and how everything shakes out. If you want to start a kicker in your super flex, you're a psycho, but go right ahead and do it. So Matt, I find it interesting that we start to see kickers go a little bit early, and 13th round is early in the 22 round draft, when in the grand scheme of things, it's a onesie position where a lot of players are going to score the same amount of points. there can be a positional advantage, and most people see Justin Tucker as the positional advantage. I'm going to put you right on the spot, and yes, you have a pick coming up. So I'll let you make that pick as you're about to hear my question. And that is, how do you personally plan on approaching kicker? Are you looking at it as a throwaway position? You'll get one of the last ones available, or do you see this run and is it making you nervous?
Both things can be true. I'll take.
They're not mutually exclusive.
They're not mutually exclusive. I kind of like the way Sicoli mentioned it with tier breaks, right? Like I look at those sort of tiers, right? And kicker is sort of the one tier. You got Justin Tucker at 1-1. And then, kind of drops off from there. I kind of see it as a position where you're going to get someone that's going to put up about the same points unless you go and reach for that first one, the Tuckers of the world. So earnestly looking at this, the way this went, if McPherson fell to me, I probably would have taken McPherson, right? It's like, I kind of see him as, up offense there in Cincinnati. Now I look at the rest of the kickers there is like, okay, there's a bit of a drop off. I'll wait till later, not to play my cards, but it's just a mock. But yeah, I'll get one of those middle guys and be just fine with it.
There you go. Sicoli, are you MFL or sleeper?
Sleeper, and I will say I got beef with you. I beef with a lot of people apparently, but with you, Ryan, now because that run just I'm disappointed. I'm thoroughly disappointed.
Yeah, Scampers called it out again. It's all mock draft fun, but yeah,
he's right on point because there is a real advantage to having a good kicker this year. And I just watched the Chiefs offense, the Bills offense, the Bengals offense, and the Ravens offense go off the board. And obviously Justin Tucker represents, a difference maker of that tier. But if they're so safe, guys like Bass and guys like Booker and guys like McPherson, and then you're looking at, other offenses that we think could be good, maybe Brandon McManus with the Jaguars, but he got cut. And we have, we don't want people who are missing field goals, even with no negative scoring. So, yeah, that forced me to wait a little bit longer. But yeah, I'm still gonna wait. But yeah, thanks a ton, Ryan. I really appreciate it, my man.
Hey, Brandon McManus, you spoke it into existence.
There we go. Big leg of Brandon.
Faith, MFL or sleeper?
Sleeper.
Sleeper. So you're a one kicker group. What is your thought?
Although I did petition sleeper to add kicker to the flex pool, but
I'm relatively shocked. Sleeper, wonderful app, and very much listens to their consumers. With
especially
Fishbowl, I am
Fishbowl.
shocked that did not happen this year. So I don't know. But Faith, what's your approach on kickers? Is it get one of the best ones or be the last person to take one?
Please hold.
Oh, are you picking? And you already took a kicker, so I think you technically answered this question already.
We did have through auto draft, but Wizard did get a tight end.
I saw that, and it's a tight end I absolutely love. Dice Dealer throwing it under the bus. I actually love Irv Smith, and I think the Bengals utilize their tight ends as well as any team in the league. If Irv Smith can stay healthy, I certainly don't think he's going to be mad that he passed on, Jawan Johnson. And I know we have a big Jawan Johnson group here, but I don't think he's going to be mad that he passed on Jawan Johnson for Irv Smith. I think it's going to work out real well. So Faith, you obviously took the fourth kicker in this draft. Do you think you were a product of the run, or is that how you plan to do this in the draft?
I honestly hadn't been thinking about kickers until Dishwain took Tucker.
Yeah.
And so then I was thinking about it. I was going to take Booker, obviously. But then Benny stole that option from me. So I kind of sometimes, depending on where I'm drafting from, will be that lemming because it happens. As soon as the first kicker's off the board, somebody's like, oh, kickers are starting to go. I need to get mine while I can still get a good one. And so I will generally just follow that herd because we're sitting at the 14th round. You've already got your starters and now you're just filling in your bench. But if you're drafting on sleeper, you have to start a kicker. So you need, or you should want, a good kicker. So to me, that's just another one of your starting positions that you are looking for a premium on to draft while they're still there.
There you go. Joel, you know the question now. Sleeper or MFL?
I am on sleeper. I will say last year I started the kicker run with Justin Tucker at about the exact same spot. I think it was the 13-9 instead of 13-12, and it did kind of trigger a kicker run I'm happy to get Daniel Carlson at that spot just because I think he belongs in that top tier. So I'm okay with that. I'm good with that. I think it's about the right spot.
All right. And Austin, sleeper or MFL?
Yeah, I'm on sleeper.
Jesus,
and
I'm the only MFL drafter in this whole room. What is
Yeah,
going on?
MFL is so unfriendly. Sorry.
Yeah, it's not great.
That's because
You're the lucky
only
one.
You're the only person.
I know
in here
Joel
that's
is
like,
pro MFL.
yeah, but also you got to keep your streak of having a 0-minute timer on your MFL thing. So
Yeah, how's that going to work with the live draft? I guess it's going to go 0, and then I won't have the first pick, so I should have plenty of time to get my pre-draft. I have not made an actual Scott Fishbowl pick in the last 5 years.
yeah, proud of you? Question mark.
Question mark.
But no, basically what Faith said when it comes to kickers, I'm treating it like you would traditionally treat quarterbacks. I don't want to start the run, but I don't want to finish it. And I think the way that we need to think about kickers is similar to how I think it was Matt framed it this way of like, which offense, or maybe it was Michael. It was one of the M names framed it as like, which offense are we taking? Because the way that kickers are scored this year, it's about touchdowns now, like, right?
Yep.
Like, usually you wouldn't go for someone that was just going to get 4 extra points a game because it's just 4 points. But this year in Scott Fishbowl, that's 13.2 points, right? So I'm taking the high volume offenses like Buffalo, like Kansas City, like Jake Elliott, or like Philadelphia with Jake Elliott. I'd probably avoid Justin Tucker, honestly, because there were games last year where Baltimore put up like 16 points.
Yeah.
And if 2 of those field goals are 40-yard field goals and they get 1 touchdown, you add that up really quickly. That's about 12 points. And another kicker like Jake Elliott, yeah, that's an average day. If Philadelphia scores 5 touchdowns and Jake Elliott doesn't go all Brett Maher on everyone, then he's going to outscore Justin Tucker.
Sorry, I'm not laughing at you, Austin. Zach says that you can see all of my
happening.
pre-drafted picks in my beard, so I just keep them there for safekeeping. So as the lone voice for MFL on the chat, and as it's being pointed out, it's because I'm as ancient as MFL's interface. So as the lone voice for MFL on the chat, kickers are very, very interesting for me and Classic Mike, who is in the chat with us as well. And he kind of brought up that you want kickers that are good, but also indoor kickers. I think is kind of like the going thing when it comes to kickers. And then I also want to roll back one more comment. Dice Dealer said he's thinking no kicker, and I personally think that might be a mistake. Based on what I just brought up, the top kickers are going to score top 20, top 25, top 30 wide receiver numbers pretty regularly. It bumps down a little bit with RBs because of the points per carry. For those drafting in MFL, kickers are a legit flex option. And when I say that, if they go in the 13th round, like they just went, you can't draft the wide receiver 15 in the 13th round. And that's someone I can plug into my flex every single week. I am the exact opposite of this entire group on Sleeper. I will happily end the run and be the last person to take my kicker. I understand everything you guys are saying about, getting the good ones, all that kind of fun stuff. But for me, I want to be in a situation where I've continued to load up on talent in every other position. And at a onesie position, I'm the stream master general. I will stream that position all season long and make the picks based on matchups. I would rather have the last guy. Me and Mike have a whole nother mountain to climb being an MFL, especially in a live draft. It'll be interesting to see if a kicker actually goes in the first 10 rounds of the live draft. And then the last user question was actually from quite a while. Actually, no, sorry. There's a hilarious one we have to get in first. And that is, of course, Mr. Scampers wants to know Cole Kmet or Young Wei Koo. And I actually went and looked. In last year's MFL scoring, they were very, very close to one another. So, Joel, in a draft, are you taking Cole Kmet or Young Wei Koo?
Remember who you're contributing for.
Never taking Cole Kmet, so I will say Young Wei Koo by default.
Matt, this is an important test. You don't realize
it is.
Yeah,
it's your
an important
first
test.
Fantasy podcast. Yeah.
Oh,
There is a wrong answer.
There is a wrong answer.
Just think of me and you'll know what the right answer is.
I prefer Cole Kmet.
Oh,
Matt. It was good working with you. I'm sure you're going to do great at IDP, guys. Have a good one, buddy.
Guess I'll have to
Austin?
find a new best ball co-host. Young Wei Koo, baby. Never Cole
Obviously.
Kmet.
Cole Kmet, Young Wei Koo.
Cole Kmet versus Young Wei Koo. That's the discussion.
That's
I'm
the
walking
pick.
back.
Yes.
You're on the clock.
Well, it's got to be. It's got to be Cole. Kmet.
Careful.
Oh my God, we're shipping 2 guys back to
I'm
IDP,
sorry.
guys. It was
We're
fun
going
working with you
Cole
guys.
Kmet. I know it's a hated guy over here with Club Fantasy, but
Yeah, I'm
Hey,
just
liked
hyping
him
up
last
freaking
year.
Irv Smith. Like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah, I love Irv Smith.
What are we doing?
Yeah,
here?
yeah.
It's the
No, that's a
same
good point by Matt.
Yeah, that actually makes sense though. Irv Smith's
Faith?
good.
Okay.
Faith, I know you're going to answer correctly.
Will I?
Dear.
Are we sending you over to IDP, guys? I think you're on hiatus right now. Are we taking you off of hiatus? Who are you taking, Faith?
Young Wei Koo. Duh.
Okay, obviously. And then Zach wants to point out that Josh's nightmares. Josh for charity a few years ago took Young Wei Koo at the 101, so we know where
Not
he's
just
going with that pick.
charity.
But
Fishbowl.
yeah, in Scott Fishbowl. But
In Scott Fishbowl.
to err on the side of Matt and Michael, Cole Kmet outscored Young Wei Koo by 9 fantasy points in Scott Fishbowl scoring last year. So the correct answer was not taking either one of them. Because yes,
And that was
Taylor.
a Bears offense that passed the ball 22 times a game. Just to throw it out there.
All right. And
But this
now
was
a serious
also
question.
an Atlanta offense that scored like 2 points a game. So
Yeah, but they
I
were
think-
kicking them.
I think this is an interesting question because of, I guess, the age difference, but the usage difference, especially in Scott Fishbowl scoring. This was asked a while ago by our buddy Terry. Najee Harris versus Nick Chubb, and obviously there's some Steeler fans in the pool with us, and we have some Georgia fans as well, so it's a little interesting on all sides of it. In a league where you are going to get a 1/4 of a point per carry, first downs, and Nick Chubb is expected to be the Browns offense. Sicoli, I'm going to put you on the spot right off the rip. Does that influence you enough to take Chubb over Harris?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would take Chubb, but we talked about it on the Dynasty After Party on our last show about the tale of 2 seasons for Najee Harris last year. I'm on the clock, so I'm going to quickly
Yep, you're
rattle
fine.
off a pick here. Oh my, this is such a great group that we're picking from here. Let's
We have
see if
reached
The end
one
of,
else-
the end of
Yeah.
Scott
Yeah.
Fishbowl is a very fun
Yeah,
time.
so tale 2 seasons. Najee Harris was the RB23 from weeks 1 to 8 and a massive disappointment while he had that screw in his foot. They got the screw taken out over the bye week. He came back and was the RB8 over the back half of the season. So I believe that Najee Harris is going to have an excellent season. They've helped to create a much better offensive line. Should be a better offense in general in the second season with Pickett and Matt Canada together. So I like it very close. I think they're going to finish close to back. I'd probably still take Chubb just because I think he's a little bit safer, but it's close for me.
Interestingly enough, in Scott Fishbowl, you might not even need to choose. They were separated by almost 2 full rounds of ADP. Austin, who are you taking in this situation?
Wow.
yeah, I think I'm going to take Najee Harris because I think he's going to have that bounce back season. But I'm just stuck loving Najee Harris and pulling for him. I could see the case for taking Nick Chubb, but I'm going to go with Najee Harris.
All right. Matt?
I like Nick Chubb and the consistency factor there, but everything that was said about Najee Harris and the projected upside of that offense, right? That's all very true, right? I typically with that, when you're going to be drafting them, as your maybe RB1 or at least your good RB2, I like the consistency. So I'll go with Chubb.
Joel.
Yeah, I think the only kind of argument against Chubb is that he kind of didn't do very well when Deshaun Watson was in the lineup last year, but the whole offense didn't do well.
I was just going to
so I
say,
think
neither did anyone else.
Yeah, so I think that's more of kind of the whole thing not working. I think that's going to be a really good offense, and Chubb is just so good. There's no Kareem Hunt. There's really no second banana right to take away touches from him as of right now. I don't think Jerome Ford is anything close to what they expect Kareem Hunt used to be. So, yeah, I would take Chubb there.
And Faith, bring it home.
Good job.
I wonder who's
One's from Georgia, one's from Alabama. Where do you think he's going?
Exactly.
Where she's going.
No, it's an interesting question because of the 2-round separation. And Michael, you actually hit a really interesting point that you think they could finish back to back, which makes them very, very interesting picks. Folks, the draft is still going on. We're a little past an hour. The show's going to go over an hour. I mentioned it to my co-host before. If any of you guys need to jump off. Absolutely fine. I completely get it. I have moved us back up to the top half of the draft that I could get on the screen in one time. I'm just going to start with Faith. Any picks stand out to you? Anything, even if it's you asking the question of why do we think this guy went ahead of this guy? Is there anything on the board right now that just doesn't seem right to you?
Travis Kelce at number 2.
Okay. Well, we've talked a ton about Travis Kelce at number 2. So yeah, and you know what's interesting is I think Al would go back and agree with you on that take.
So in this pool, is CMC still RB1 overall?
Great question, Joel.
Which question am I answering? Faith's question? Or your
Is
question?
CMC number 1 overall? Faith's question.
No.
Matt?
No.
RB1. I apologize. Not 101. RB1. So both of you are saying not the RB1 though still?
Still no.
Austin, I think I know your answer here because you've been beating the Elijah Mitchell drum for a little while now. So, Michael?
Yeah.
No.
Interesting. Faith?
Close.
What
I
do
like
you
them,
think?
but no.
No. I've been on the not CMC train for a while. I mean, he had back-to-back seasons where he didn't complete a season because of injuries, and that's just not a player I want to put my trust in.
I guess I'll just be the weirdo and say yes. I think the Elijah Mitchell coming in and getting him some time off the field is only going to improve his efficiency. I think the fact that he could very well be the best quarterback on San Francisco, we're going to see some completion points out of Christian McCaffrey that we might not see out of other running backs. So no, I'm all for Christian McCaffrey as the RB1s. Coley, top half of the draft. Anything stand out to you?
Yeah, I had it before, but then I took a second kicker and it really threw my entire life off. But I found it again. It's really everything in round 9. Before when you brought it up that we were going to talk about this, it was Michael Pittman, and I look closer and it's Kadarius Toney, and then I look closer and it's Mike Evans. And I mean, I'll quickly touch on Kadarius Toney is the one I want to talk about because I have never once thought about drafting Kadarius Toney in this entire offseason. It hasn't changed until now because unfortunately for everybody, he's just not a good player at the football lifestyle. That said, there's a lot of opportunity in Kansas City. So I'm not going to be the one that picks him. But
I love that you're destroying him, but then you're like,
yeah.
but
I refuse.
Great.
I'm not going to talk myself into it or anything. I get why he goes where he goes, but I am very out on Kadarius Toney, especially at a 9th round cost. He seems like a guy should be in the 11th on for me. And the Chiefs have proven that they don't need a wide receiver to be relevant to move the ball. So any other thoughts on Kadarius Toney is what I'm definitely curious about.
No, I like that. I'm actually going to kick to Austin on this one. Austin, how do you feel about Mike Evans being lumped in with this group? You just wrote a great article on Mike Evans.
Can I get that
you got
back? Oh, that was a bad
Mike
one.
Williams, Kadarius Toney, Jordan Addison. Michael Pittman's also an interesting one down this far. And then I know you don't want Quentin Johnston. So how do you feel about Mike Evans being lumped in with this group in the 9th round?
I freaking hate it. I think it is silly beyond all measure. Like I saw this happen. This was the one I was going to talk about. So I'm glad Michael was like, I'm not going to talk about Mike Evans. How is Mike Evans going behind Jordan Addison?
Oh, I'll tell you. Hey. That was me. That was me over here. Austin.
No.
All right.
Jordan
Addison is a star wide receiver. The Vikings passed the ball within 3 wide receiver sets at 76% of the time was a top 5 number, and Baker Mayfield can't throw the football. So
Has he ever had 1,000 receiving yards in the NFL?
Has Baker Mayfield supported Odell Beckham Jr. in his prime? No, he did not. Did he support anyone in Carolina? It just comes down to my disbelief in Baker Mayfield. And I was wrong about Geno Smith last year, like everyone.
What about Kyle Trask, my dude?
Yeah.
Kyle Trask.
No, I can't.
Yes.
Did you just say Kyle Trask? Did I just hear Kyle Trask? Is that the sim? He still hasn't. He just got drafted in the 20th round.
By me.
Oh, good God. Let me find a support number for you. There's got to be something out here for Florida people.
Hey, I'm from Georgia. Thank you.
I'm saying Florida college fans.
Yeah.
Oh, got it. No,
Gator
I mean,
J.
first
I
off,
was gonna say Gator J probably has that number as a UF fan. I'm sure.
But go
He's had
ahead.
to call
Go
it
ahead,
many
Austin.
times.
I mean, yes, I'm in on Mike Evans. He's going. This is just malpractice. Outlaw. He's going. I'm still betting on him to get 1,000 rushing yard or 1,000 receiving yards. I'm in on his receiving overs. I wanted to come back to the Kadarius Toney point real quick because Sicoli talking about it. I keep mixing up Matt and Michael. I don't get it. One of y'all talking about Kadarius Toney. I was listening to the Footballers DFS podcast recently, and they pointed out, and I just pulled up the PFF stats. Here's Kadarius Toney's receiving snap count per game from week 15 on: 3, 9, 15, and then 6, and then in the playoffs, 12, 3, and 5. This dude is not on the field. Why is he getting drafted ahead of Mike Evans, who's going to be running a route every damn passing down?
I think that's a fair question.
And for the record, my fear of Mike Evans, I have my worries. I just like Jordan Addison that much. I would 1,000% take Mike Evans over over Kadarius Toney. And the other thing I want to say about Mike Evans, my issue, and as someone who's had him on dynasty rosters for years now, it's going to be so hard to know when he's going to have that good game and when he's not. And that risk is, I'm fine taking it in best ball, but when we're talking about redraft, we're setting those lineups. You're really, I don't know if the highs are going to be relevant enough or recent enough to justify the lows. And there are going to be lows because there were when he was in his prime.
I just want to thank you guys for triggering Mike with the Kadarius Toney talk. Now I know that I have to wear a Kadarius Toney to my live draft just to throw him off of his game when we're in New York. So that
seems like a low blow to me.
No, I was just going to say that seems logical.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fair. You could do it, and then you're probably not going to draft a good receiver the entire draft.
That's just how Ryan operates, though. I mean, he's not a Slytherin for no reason.
Exactly. Matt, you know the question at this point. Anything standing out to you?
Yeah, staying in the same position, Calvin Ridley in the 5th is fascinating to me. Because look at the people he's going ahead of, right? You know, your Debo, your Godwin, Ayuk, McLaurin, Christian Watson, Judy, all these people I would draft in front of Calvin Ridley. Because it's all just projection, right? It's like we're assuming he's going to be the same dude he was, what is it now, 3 years ago, it feels like, the last time we saw him actually play meaningful snaps with, new offense, new QB. There's a lot of mouths to feed in that Jacksonville offense. So just assuming Ridley's going to come back and be that same guy he was in Atlanta, to me is not something I'd want to do. And I see way more, at least in my brain, surer best bets at that wide receiver group. So, getting him there in the 5th round seems like an overpay to me, but I guess if you want him, you have to get him there. I don't know if anyone else has thoughts on
2 rounds ahead of teammate Christian Kirk seems off as well. Like you're very right about that.
I was ecstatic to get Kirk because I think he's actually a better fit fantasy wise, especially in this format. So it's like, I'll take him 2 rounds later. Sure. Go after the name.
Joel?
I'm going to say there's a shocker in this draft, and then there's a surprise. The shocker is that Faith took 2 kickers, and none of them is Rodrigo Blankenship. The surprise to me is kind of DK Metcalf at wide receiver 15. I did take Keenan Allen ahead of him just because of the format. Because, with, like we mentioned before, the first downs being weighted so heavily, I think that kind of favors a guy like Keenan Allen, who's going to be like the kind of alpha target on his team. But I think Metcalf going all the way down where he went is kind of surprising.
Yeah. I'm going to co-sign with you guys a little bit about the wide receivers because pay attention, folks, to the point per carry or the quarter of a point per carry, because there's a running back who went in the 9th round that I think is going to be a Scott Fishbowl League winner. And you could argue when you look at just the running backs, he went where he was supposed to go. And I'm talking about David Montgomery. It's all I've been talking about for about a month now. I think he is a steal in Detroit. He goes in the 9th round. I think I'm right about the 9th round.
He went the 8th round.
8th round, my bad. Yep. So 8th round. But regardless, if you look at who he went around, James Conner, Miles Sanders, I don't love J.K. Dobbins, but Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker, I don't hate any of that. However, to the points that were brought up, Calvin Ridley, Treylon Burks, Jahan Dotson, Brandon Ayuk. I like these guys, but when you look at this scoring, Montgomery is going to wipe the floor with them in Scott Fishbowl scoring. We are taking wide receivers very early because we've been conditioned that when you're starting 3 wide receivers, you need to fill those 3 wide receiver spots very quickly. But don't forget, if you're on Sleeper, you're filling 2 flex spots. If you're on MFL, you're filling 3 flex spots. It's okay to load up on running back as well. And we are going to end with one last question looking at the bottom half of the draft. And all I want to ask you guys is looking at these players from, we can probably get it set up right about there. So from round 12 on, is there a player that went this late in the draft that you wished you had taken earlier to keep them from falling to somebody else's team, Joel?
Oh, well, I'll go kind of back to your point about David Montgomery, and that's earlier than this point. But yeah. I think you often bring up the kind of the default rankings. I lost David Montgomery in the rankings, and I would have taken him before DeAndre Swift. So yeah,
excellent.
Pay attention
point,
to the
Joel.
Defaults.
Excellent.
Get your cues set. Because I definitely would have taken him before DeAndre Swift, and he's just really buried in these rankings for some reason.
And so just on Joel's point, something I used to talk about all the time on the mock draft show when I drafted, but I don't draft so much anymore, so I've kind of forgot about it. The first thing I do when I get into any mock draft is I set my queue with players that I think are buried in rankings. I've done enough on different sites that I know who's too low. And so I go find those guys and put them in my queue right away. I don't set myself up for auto draft. I'm not going to take these guys 10 rounds of where they're supposed to go, but I like to have somewhere where I can keep an eye on them. And David Montgomery is an excellent point with that, Joel. So looking at this board again, to put you back on the spot, anybody here who you don't think should have fallen. And I'm not even necessarily saying like, they went in the 15th and I should have taken them in the 11th. I'm just saying, is there anybody who went this late in the draft that just screams value to you and you wish they were on your team?
I think it's Tyler Algier. I think he's going to get a lot of run there. I think they're going to kind of use Bijan Robinson as a slot receiver quite a bit. So I think Algier is going to get more running back snaps than people anticipate. So I like that pick at the 13th round. I think that's a really good value pick. And I would absolutely have taken him there.
All right.
Yep.
Matt?
Oh, it's such a toughie. I'll say Chase Claypool. Like maybe I'm just higher on this Bears offense than most are with my, other takes, which we're not going to talk about, Coop versus Komet. But I feel like he has the opportunity there, and like they really didn't pass a whole lot last year, which was already mentioned. I think Fields is more comfortable in that offense. He's going to be throwing it more, so he's got to throw it to someone, right? Claypool, especially going against those other wide receivers there, I feel like is pretty good value.
Yeah, I think that's a great one. 18th round for Chase Claypool by Austin. Austin, anybody screaming value to you?
Yeah, I've been having a hard time because I'm just like, it's my team. My team's perfect. I mean, what's this question about?
Hold on. I'll delay for you for a little bit longer while you pick somebody. But it's funny, Matt, you mentioned that every time you leave a draft, you hate your team. I am the exact opposite. Man, do I love the smell of my own farts. I walk out of a draft and I am like, I won this league already. Everybody else might as well quit. My ego when it comes to fantasy football is uncontrollable. So that's how I'll feel after 10 picks in New York City and Austin. But
in all seriousness, I think there's a couple of tight ends that went really late that should be going earlier. Or maybe not. Maybe this is the lesson.
Accept the value.
Don't draft tight ends too early. So 2 that I love, Noah Fant going in the 18th round by Faith and Hunter Henry going in the 19th round by Matt. These guys, they're going to be red zone targets in offenses that are going to be passing the ball, right? You're going to have Geno Smith passing a lot. Noah Fant's been relevant for that. And then I, once again, forget the New England Patriots' new offensive coordinator, but he's going to be Bill O'Brien. They're going to be passing the ball more this year, y'all. And so Hunter Henry, he's going to get those red zone targets. And so I love having that late round touchdown up dart throw.
Cole, you know the deal.
Someone clearly didn't read my article because Bill O'Brien was featured heavily.
I just wrote a 5,500 word article.
Yeah.
I read your article.
That's like
I don't have time to read.
That Austin. That's like 10 articles.
I know, and so everything
words is enough to make me hyperventilate and have a seizure at the same time.
And to Austin's credit, I only needed to fix one thing to make the readability green. I just had to change some things to headlines instead of bold. So it was a really good job on his part.
It's just everything before that. It's just been forgotten. Anyways, back to you, Michael.
Yeah, Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, so the steal of the draft to me, and I think it's not even a question. I'm shocked nobody's mentioned. It's got to be Vinny Testaverde in the 2010. I mean, the mobility this guy has at probably,
65 years old.
Yeah. In all seriousness, the tight end. I'm going to also stay on the tight end position, and I had him on my queue for a while, and I'm wishing I pulled the trigger. Jake Ferguson, 16th round, all the way at the end there. I liked what he showed me last year. I really think he was very impressive behind Dalton Schultz in Dallas last season. Now Dalton Schultz is obviously in Houston. They've drafted another tight end who's going to take his own rookie time to develop. Ferguson should be, close. It should be a near every down starter for an offense that I think is going to pass the ball a decent amount. And I would have loved to stack him with Dak Prescott. So I think Jake Ferguson's going to have some good weeks, some touchdown upside in a Dallas offense that will be scoring, quite often. So, yeah, I like Jake Ferguson as one of my late round targets.
All right, Faith.
What?
Late player that you just wish you had on your team.
So, where? I'm gonna have to pull it up on. Piss me off.
Clearly.
Freaking.
I mean, you could talk about Hunter Henry. You've written articles about him.
Yeah, but that wasn't like somebody I needed.
Yeah.
Or I could have taken him when I took Noah Fant. I don't want you. It was Bobby Trees. Sorry. Honestly, it was I don't even. Words are hard, people.
Have you lost it, Faith?
Yes.
All right.
Like my mind.
I'm going to jump in then. And there are two that stood out to me. I'm going to start with Wizard over here in the 14th round. Ezekiel Elliott was the RB20 in Scott Fishbowl scoring last year. And clearly, he's lost a step. Clearly, he's old at 28 or whatever. I think there is a non-zero chance he ends up back in Dallas in a very similar role to what he walked away from. And we let him fall to the 14th round. And then a hill that I will die on. Josh probably knew this was coming. Clyde Edwards-Helaire in the 17th round. I love Jerick McKinnon as much as the next guy, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire was a top 10 running back for like the first 7 weeks in Kansas City last year, and then got hurt, had some issues. McKinnon took over and was a top 5 running back in the same role. I think that role is immensely valuable. And in the 17th round, give me Clyde Edwards-Helaire all day long, though Mike is in my draft, so I'm probably not going to get him now. Sicoli, I saw you roll your eyes. Are you not a CEH believer anymore? You're off the train completely?
Well, I'm glad you called me up because you just said, I know Mike's going to support me on this. I want to clarify I'm not that Mike.
No. Mike in the draft knows my secrets now.
Yeah.
Yes.
No disrespect to CEH. No disrespect. But around, the first half of the season last year, Isaiah Pacheco wasn't being utilized. And Isaiah Pacheco kind of broke on in the second half of the year. And I think he's really going to be, I'm not a big Pacheco guy, but I do think he's going to have a relevant role. I think McKinnon has a relevant role, and I don't know where CH fits in that bunch. Good offense, and he was that high on scoring because he was scoring, 5 touchdowns in 7 weeks, but that's what you're hoping for, and I'm not sure if you're going to get that. But 17th round, bet on the Chiefs. Why not?
There you go. Quick shout out to Al. This is what mock drafting is all about. He went Kelsey. He hated it. He is looking for a Hurts, A.J. Brown stack once the real draft starts. Hopefully nobody from your league is here and is just going to take those players away from you. But like I said, that's certainly what mock drafting is about, is changing your philosophy and seeing what works and what doesn't work. I'm going to start with Austin down the bottom corner, tell people where they can find your work and pitch one piece of work.
Yeah, so you can find all of my work at clubfantasyffl.com. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Austin_FFL. The primary piece of work you need to check out is my guide to week 17 and best ball drafts. I break down all 16 matchups for the final round of best ball tournaments. And it's also a way to check out my little blurb on every team and which players I think you should target from every team.
Love it. Matt, same deal.
Yep, content creator for Club Fantasy as well as IDP Guys. One piece of work. Just look up IDP Guys musical covers. Watch any one of them. I like to make silly little musical videos, and I find them funny. So hopefully you do too.
They are amazing. Don't let him downplay it. Look for his work. You're thoroughly going to enjoy it. Joel?
You can find Michael and I every Sunday at 8 o'clock on the Dynasty After Party. And I believe tomorrow I'll be dropping a Ken Walker write-up for Club Fantasy. That's up to our esteemed editor, but should be.
I'll be honest, I completely forgot you told me it was available. So yes, but you gave it to me early, so I'll certainly get it done today. Michael?
It was on time.
Yes, early, which might be the first one in a long time that's been early.
It is, because I'll be on a plane tomorrow, so I knew I had to
Yep.
get it in earlier.
Michael?
So everything, at least for now, while Twitter's still a thing, everyone can find me. I've already applied for Blue Sky, but apparently there's a
Oh
waiting
my
list.
God, the
Listen,
Twitter
man,
doomsayers, man.
No, it's not doomsayer. I just really am not a fan of.
Well, that's
the way
fair.
it's
I hate
still
Elon
going.
Musk and I hate everything about Twitter,
Yeah,
but no one's going anywhere.
Yeah, not a fan of it all. But as long as it's still a thing, everything I do is on Twitter. So my life's there at Michael__Sicoli. It's underneath my name here and on YouTube.
Wait, is there two underscores?
There is, because I was too slow to get one, and I try every week for the last 3 years to get one, and that guy is still there.
Well, maybe he'll go to
So,
Blue Sky and give his
maybe
account
he
up.
will. Maybe he will. I'm gonna have to DM him or something. But either way, everything I do is on Twitter. So if you follow me on Twitter, you'll see what I put out there.
I think Blue Sky is like invite only, or however I
That's
understand it.
that's why I'm not in it.
You
It's a
invite
waiting
him,
list.
but
Or
you
wait
get
list.
in. You get in and invite him to Blue Sky. Be like, look, bro, all I need is that one underscore. Let's do this.
I'm just waiting for the Instagram version. I want the Threads
Yeah.
version to come out. I'm excited for that.
You kids and your social medias, come on.
Young
Hey.
whippersnappers.
Yeah.
You can find me on Twitter at ff_leap of faith. But equally as important, follow Women of Fantasy Football at women_FF, both on Twitter and on Instagram. We are coming up on August quickly, which
Yeah.
means we are coming up on our fourth annual.
Yes.
Dang. Our
He's a
fourth
guest for
annual-
us. Who's somebody you have confirmed? Are you even allowed to do this? Is Josh going to yell at me?
Oh, do you think I care? So for those of you who know or don't know, I attended my first Galvanize event this summer, who is actually our partner for Women of Fantasy Football events. It's where all of the money that gets donated to when you guys buy
Bid on the
raffle
jerseys.
tickets.
Yeah.
And I met this fabulous young woman named Lindsay, who will be joining us for Women of Fantasy Football this year. Lindsay is the team reporter for the Minnesota Vikings.
Awesome. So yeah, make sure you're following Faith. Make sure you're following Women of Fantasy. Great stuff over there. Make sure you're following Club Fantasy at Club Fantasy FFL on all the social medias. But way more important, you've stung around for an hour and a half listening to us talk about a tournament you may or may not even be a part of. Hit subscribe. This is the kind of stuff you can expect from us every single week. We go live 4-5 times a week. I'm not going to list off all the shows because you guys have stuck with us long enough. We appreciate you. Make sure you hit subscribe. If you're in Scott Fishbowl, good luck, unless you're in my division. Sorry, Mike. If you're not in Scott Fishbowl, still contribute to Fantasy Cares. Make sure you sign up for all the satellite tournaments. You can win your way into Scott Fishbowl 14. But most importantly, make sure you sign up for Scott Fishbowl 14, because the amount of people who bitch about not being in Scott Fishbowl who never actually signed up, it's all for a good cause. So yeah, this is all about Scott Fishbowl. Thank everybody for joining us. Thank everybody for watching. Thank everybody for drafting. Always remember that defense wins championships. Offense wins fantasy football, and practice makes perfect. I'll see you guys at the next
Real
mock
quick, one
draft.
question. Wait, hold on. If you're near a live draft, and even if you're not in, go hang out, because
Yeah.
sometimes people don't show up, things happen, and they need replacements. So you never know. But
Yeah.
also, even if you're not drafting, it's a fun time.
Tito Murphy's, New York City. I think it's 42nd Street between 8th and 7th Avenues. 6 drafts going on, 72 people. There's a chance someone's not going to show up. So come
Trophy
have fun
Smack
with
has
us.
4
There you
in
go.
Anaheim. So
All right, everybody. Have a great